everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the SaaS Marketing Show. Today we're joined by Edward Ford, who is the Marketing Director at Supermetrics. So most marketers listening to this podcast, I'm sure you are probably already aware of Supermetrics, but just in case, their product is the one that picks up all of your marketing data that you need and brings it together to your favorite reporting, analytics, or storage platforms. And I know from checking out the updated website, Edward, it's used by over 500,000 marketers around the world at the moment. So I'm excited to have you here. Welcome to today's show.
Thanks, Dylan. Yeah, excited to be here as well.
So today we're going to be kind of deep diving on what it was that you guys have done to grow from 10 million in ARR to 20 million in just 12 months over the period of last year. I know that also you've put together pretty in-depth blog post breaking down a lot of these things as well. So I'll make sure that that gets shared in the show notes and wherever people are watching this under the video, etc. But before we jump into deep diving into some of those key points, maybe you could share with us a little bit more about where Supermetrics are right now in terms of like potential ARR size. And we could just unpack that a little bit before jumping straight into things.
Yeah, sure. So the article you mentioned was published pretty recently. So it was only a few months ago. And then now, since publishing that article, pretty much we've been hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. So I think everyone listening knows how that's impacted a lot of businesses and SaaS businesses. So we've still grown during the last few months, which is of course good. So we're now getting closer to 25 million in ARR USD, awesome. At least. So yeah, we're kind of just under that number. So getting closer around 2 million in monthly recurring revenue.
Cool. And one thing that I love about Supermetrics is like that growth has happened, obviously not overnight. There's been a lot of work and stuff that's gone into things, but the growth seems to have really compounded a lot over the last few years. I was even like checking out articles, and I think in your blog post you had it where you show the breakdown of like the revenue increase and how it grows so much. But it seems like you guys structure things very well. Like I know there hasn't been loads and loads of fundraisers. I think I saw just one, like the Series A round in 2017. It seems like keeping the margins like at a healthy point is something that's a core focus for like the leadership team with you guys as well, which I think is really nice. I know that you guys are based in Helsinki with a couple of other offices too that have opened up recently. Maybe you could just give us a quick inside look as to what the marketing team looks like at a business at this current kind of size and growth rate.
Yeah, sure. So we have what I would consider quite a broad marketing and business development department. And we kind of have 4 squads within that. So to give some context, at the moment, Supermetrics has around 90 team members in total. Then we have about 14 of us in this wider marketing and biz dev department. So the squads are marketing, which is what I'm in. Then we have growth. Then we have affiliate and channel sales and business development. So in the marketing team, we have everything from like product marketing, content marketing, social, and so forth. And then in growth, that's a relatively new team. So we have 2 people in the growth team. So looking at everything from sort of demand gen, marketing ops, plus growth hybrid, working with a lot of different teams across Supermetrics. Then affiliate and channel sales, we have 5 people in that team. So 4 in affiliate and 1 person running our channel sales program. So our affiliate program is quite big. That's been up and running since pretty early on in Supermetrics days. And we have over 1,000 affiliates. So the team there are doing a great job. And then more recently, we brought on someone to build out our channel sales, which is essentially the partner program, working with agencies, in particular on selling some of our bigger, more enterprise-oriented products. And then in addition to that, biz dev, which is all the partnerships, working with companies on the data source side, so all the platforms we integrate with, and then partners on the data destination side, so where you can move your marketing data, plus other partners who would make strategic sense to work with us at Supermetrics. So that's the setup, that's the team. So we're doing quite a lot, like all marketing teams, you kind of end up doing a whole bunch of stuff. So that's the setup we have at the moment.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. It's always interesting to see, like, I don't think anyone's marketing team is ever the same. Like we speak with, through this podcast, I get to speak with obviously a lot of people in the same kind of position as you. And it's so fascinating to see the varying sizes and levels and what the core focuses are. Like before we hit record, you and I were just talking about Tim, the CMO at Ahrefs. And for example, like they have a very, very small marketing team. Like, I think it sounds significantly smaller than yours in comparison. And then there's people that have like these huge teams with lots of different, almost like silos of different focuses. So I'm always finding it interesting. I think people listening to this, as they're thinking about growing out their marketing teams too, and like where should they focus first, it's always useful to kind of get an understanding of how other people have done that. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. So let's start talking about some of these kind of strategies or things that have happened over the last 12 months to see that kind of large and aggressive growth across the revenue for the business. The first one that I wanted to talk about is, I know you guys mentioned in that post that you were maybe not going up market, that's probably not the right way to describe it, but I know you'd spent some time introducing some more enterprise focused products, such as your Supermetrics API and the BigQuery integration. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about kind of what the average customer looks like for you guys, and how much of a focus like going larger is. Because I think the more I speak with people at your kind of stage, like that seems to be a common thread that I'm noticing, is like, okay, as we're trying to grow and increase, we want to increase deal sizes, which then leads us to looking more enterprise focused. So I'd be keen to hear from a marketing side, like how you've approached that and how that affects things like your messaging and everything else that you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's been a big focus for us at Supermetrics, and one of our strategic priorities has been to increase ACV. So we have 5 strategic focus areas for this year, and then that is one of them. And I think it's evolved over time, because Supermetrics didn't have a sales team for quite a long time. So everything was done self-serve, no touch, direct through the website, all driven through marketing. And a lot of our early customers were marketing agencies or small marketing teams inside bigger companies who needed to spin up a lot of different reports or run some ad hoc analysis, get really dirty with their data and figure out what's going on. And our core products let you move data into spreadsheets like Google Sheets, Excel, visualization platforms like Data Studio, for example. And then more recently, we've been looking at more robust solutions where you have a little more power to play with, and you could bring bigger data sets, because a lot of our customers are saying like, hey, Supermetrics is great, but spreadsheets are just not cutting it anymore. We need something that is actually built for storage rather than analysis. So we have the Supermetrics API, and then more recently we've moved into the data warehouse space, which lets you move all your marketing data into a centralized marketing data warehouse. So we launched with BigQuery last year as the first product there, and then we have more coming this year. So we're going to be looking at Snowflake during the summer. And it's quite interesting, because we had a lot of discussions about, well, how does this affect our customer, and who is the ideal customer for the new products, and how do we modify our messaging based on this shift to speaking to a different audience? Because our core audience was always marketers, and in particular PPC marketers, SEOs, marketers working at agencies. And now we're speaking to data analysts, data engineers, marketing data analysts. So I think for the most part, the basic function is the same. It's just essentially about moving your marketing data from all your different platforms into a destination where you would like to take it. And what's that meant in terms of go-to-market is that we've had to bring in a sales team as well. So that has been super interesting. So we brought in our first sales team member at around 5 million ARR, and we have now grown the sales team to probably around 20 people. So they've overtaken the marketing team now. And so for us, there's been a lot of things that we need to rethink. So there's multiple funnels. We have the self-serve funnel. And then now, how can we assist our sales team by providing them with the enterprise opportunities, and then also bigger deal sizes for our basic products as well. So there's been a lot of things going on, and it's a pretty interesting time. So I think those have been some of the things that have really shaped that here at Supermetrics.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for sharing that, because I wanted to kind of segue into the sales team area as well, because I think that's always a very interesting discussion for people who have like been self-service focused the whole time, and then are starting to think about maybe introducing that. Like just as I was leaving Leadfeeder a couple of years ago, that's when they started to think about those discussions as well. And I know that now they have a they have a sales team in place as well. And I think that's actually very interesting for a lot of people that would be listening to this, is how you guys have gone about that. Because I know in the post that I read, one key point that you mentioned was obviously we didn't want to have members of the sales team doing a call with someone over like a potential $19 a month deal, because that just makes no sense whatsoever. And I think that's something that actually I still see quite a few SaaS companies getting that wrong, I think, where they are still bringing salespeople onto calls for like, without doing too much pre-qualification or figuring out deal size. And once you do that, it doesn't become feasible to grow that out and scale that. Maybe we don't have to go like super deep into how you've built out the funnels and like the onboarding flows to identify those leads. But I would like to explore that a little bit if we could, because I think this is something that's pretty interesting. So what were some of the steps that you took when you first had the sales team starting to grow? Like how are you differentiating between, okay, who deals with what, while still also making sure that everyone's in collaboration? Because you don't just want to say, okay, this is just sales and this is just marketing, because that's when you start to get big divides across the team and challenges start to happen. So how did you guys approach that?
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. And I remember soon after I had started at Supermetrics, when there were just 3 people in the sales team, and one of my colleagues in sales came over and said, "Hey, Edward, getting some good leads in, and like a decent amount of leads, but I just did a call for a $19 a month deal." And we kind of realized, okay, yeah, we definitely need to figure out a better way of how we actually divide leads between who goes through self-serve and who goes through sales. So at first it was just a very, very version 1 solution. So there wasn't really any logic to who went through different paths when someone would sign up for a free trial. So what we did was just basically figure out what are some of the important factors and triggers that would make it worthwhile for a salesperson to speak to one person versus someone going through self-serve. But then on the flip side, we also wanted to give customers the opportunity to choose as well, so that if people are more than happy just to go and figure it out themselves, then that's okay, they can do that. But then if they would still like to talk to people, then there's always that option. So in our onboarding email, one thing we changed was just to give that option that, hey, if you want to chat with sales, you're always welcome to get a demo. You can see Supermetrics in action. We can run you through the basic points. So that was one thing. But then in terms of understanding who should go to sales, it was about looking at, firstly, what connectors people were using. Because of course we have different connectors on different pricing tiers. So if people are testing out higher tier connectors, of course it makes sense for them to discuss with sales. Also looking at some product-based behaviors. So we integrated our onboarding platform, which is Exponia, with the product backend, so that we could then look at what activities people are doing with the product, and that once people had run a certain number of queries or they had done different things with Supermetrics, their likelihood to buy would increase. So it was a case of bringing those things in. So that was probably the first iteration after we implemented that. And then now more recently, so our growth team, my colleague Mika, who is leading that, has been taking this project on and has been now implementing lead scoring models, as we have different sales teams. So we have a Helsinki-based sales team, which basically serves most of the world. And we have a US-based sales team in Atlanta who are serving the North America market, which is of course our biggest market. So figuring out which teams would get certain leads as well. Working with Clearbit now to gather a little more information to make sure we can provide a better onboarding flow for people. And so it's constantly evolving. And those are some of the things we've looked at, and I think the setup we have today is definitely not the last version, and it's going to continue to be improved. And our growth team are working very closely with the sales team. But I think another thing we've done is really try to force better alignment between marketing and sales, because we of course have our external customers, but I always think marketing teams have an internal customer, which is the sales team, and you always need to do what you can to support them and make them succeed. And one of the tough things about being in sales is that every month it's back to zero. No matter how good your previous month was, all sales reps go back to zero, every single one of them, on the first of each month. And it's pretty tough, especially now in right. situations like this. So what can we as a marketing team do to help? So with our OKRs, so our objectives and key results for Q2, we actually took an OKR that is specifically built around the sales team. So the objective is helping the sales team to sell. And the one of the ways we're actually measuring that is that the sales team are going to be, we've given them some criteria of things that we want to help them with, and they're actually going to be giving feedback and grading the marketing team on that. So we're really accountable for being able to deliver to the sales team, and we're going to be judged based on how the sales team feel we're supporting them. So it's I think it's definitely a good change we've made, and really helps us work closer together and make sure that we can work with sales to understand what do we need, what do we as a marketing team need to do to help them succeed. What are the materials they need? What gaps do we have in content, and so forth. So there's a lot of things going on. So that's kind of how we've evolved in terms of being a little more sales oriented here in the marketing team.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I also really like what you said about just making sure you're making use of the different data points that you're collecting within that sales like flow and process, right? Because like we used to do that when I was at Leadfeeder, when we were like tinkering around with onboarding flows. Like we knew, for example, which integrations were not necessarily most valuable to us, but like, okay, we know if someone integrates with X like software, they are X amount more likely to convert. And then that means that we can like make sure that we're putting a heavier focus onto the kind of flows and sequences that those people are receiving and things like that. So I think it's cool to hear that you guys are doing that in quite a lot of depth as well. Because I think as anyone listening to this within a marketing team, like we have access to so many different data points that we really should be using them, because right now the only way that we're gonna, or one of the few ways to actually stand out is to provide someone with a really good experience and a tailored experience. Like trying to remove, of course there's naturally always going to be things that are like sent to everyone and templated, of course, right? But if we can show the customer or the user that, hey, we can see what they're doing, or like we're showing an interest in how we can adjust to help them perform better with our software, like that's so key and so important. And a lot of companies are kind of missing out on that. And it's those small things that can actually make a huge difference, not just in, okay, past like how the leads get filtered through to the sales team, but actually in the close rate of those deals as well, right? It's like if we give someone that better aligned experience throughout and help educate them in a much better and more specific way, the volume of deals that are going to close is going to increase too, and the close rate is going to increase as well. So I think that's probably like, I can see through reading that post and then like speaking with you so far that it's clear, it's kind of pretty clear why you guys are seeing such good successful growth over the last few years before we even start talking about the product too. Because that was the like third or fourth thing that I wanted to talk about was I know in the post that you put together, you mentioned how like a lot of everything that you guys have done before the kind of introduction of the sales team and still now is product-led marketing, right? Like obviously it helps when you have a great product to be marketing, but I'm interested to learn a bit more about how you've kind of lent into product and the product team throughout your marketing, and talking about kind of what's working for you guys right now. Because I know you mentioned that obviously product-led marketing has always been important for you. I see you guys fairly active with paid channels as well. Like obviously I'm the kind of person that's usually in the target market for you guys, right? It's like I'm frequently seeing Supermetrics ads when I'm looking for this kind of stuff, and we're improving our reporting at our agency right now and like building out a custom solution. So it's like I'm constantly seeing stuff from you guys. So I know that ads is something that you're using. I know partnerships has been big for you too, like partnerships with Google and Google Analytics I've seen, and all of the other integration partners that you have. I've seen like pieces of content together. Maybe you could just give us a rundown. I know there's lots of stuff that you're working on, but maybe like a couple of the things that are being still successful for you guys at the moment where you're spending a lot of your time personally.
Yeah, I think, a lot of really good points there. And I think coming back to working with the product team, one of the starting points is more on the strategic side in terms of thinking about what new integrations should we build out. I think the value in a product like Supermetrics is the integrations. And for us, we've always been very focused on building fewer integrations, but better ones. So ones that go deeper, that let you really pull out all the metrics and dimensions available from the platforms we integrate with. And it's about looking at the existing connectors we have and thinking about what other integrations or platforms do our existing users already use, or if we want to move into a new space, when is a good time to do that? So of course now an example would be e-commerce is booming at the moment.
Right.
Everyone has moved from the high street to online, and Shopify is seeing, massive growth, and it's becoming one of the biggest companies in Canada. So we had that in our backlog to build, and we've accelerated the production of that and are now leading into the e-commerce space. So there's the sort of strategic thinking going on behind the scenes, and that's about working with the leadership team and the product team, and being a bit more focused on what is on our product roadmap. And then for us as a marketing team, one of the great things about working in MarTech is that you're marketing to marketers. So you're kind of, it's one of the best things to do, because you really understand the customer, and it's just great to be able to be in that position. So from there, we have an understanding of our customers, and we can provide good insights as a marketing team. And I think one of the good things about the product, as you said, is that everybody who uses it loves it. And we've been very fortunate in that our CEO has been very product focused from day one. So he's very much a product guy who used to work in marketing, analytics, and data. So it was a sort of perfect combination. And we've had a lot of people referring Supermetrics, a lot of people who use it, talk about it, and are very passionate about it. So that's been good. And we're fortunate in that the product is ties very well into marketplace distribution. So we have all the integrations on the data source side, and then we move data into different destinations. So we have things like HubSpot's app marketplace. We will have Shopify's upcoming app marketplace, and various other ways to get our product out. And then on the destination side, like the G Suite marketplace is huge for us. The Data Studio Connector Gallery is massive for us, and so forth. So it's been product led, and for us as a marketing team, it's figuring out what can we do to tap into that and to exploit that a little further. But then in terms of other things that are working for us, so we don't have the biggest team, so we have to be pretty focused. So I would say that content for sure has always been a strong play for us. And in particular, it's sort of silent content that people aren't necessarily going to share, but has really been created to be found when people are searching in Google for very specific problems they have that our products solve. So very high intent search focused content, and our templates as well are big. I think most SaaS companies who have the opportunity to build out different templates to help people get started always find those work quite well. So that's been big for us. And then, as you said, paid acquisition is a big channel for us. We invest quite a bit in that. And then in addition, the affiliate program has been fantastic. So I think the good things about that is that, of course, we have extended our marketing team by about 1,000. So all of a sudden you go from a 10, 15 person team to a 1,015 person team. And we have people all over the world speaking about Supermetrics, referring Supermetrics, and also talking about us in their local language. So we don't need to worry about producing content in French, German, Spanish, since we have affiliates who are doing that in their local markets. They're arranging local meetups, webinars, and so forth. So that has a lot more benefits other than just the actual direct revenue from the affiliate program. So I think for us, those have been the things that we see as working quite well and have been sticking to. But then at the same time, we've also started discussing this week about other channels and opportunities we have that we could look to hire for and expand into during this year and beyond. So that's kind of an overview of what's happening right now and what's working for us in marketing.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. Thank you for sharing that. I think there's loads of small pieces of what you said that people can take away and work on. Like, just off the top of my head, a couple of things that you said that are interesting to me is like the building out templates, if possible, I think is a really good idea for most people to help their customers. Like I actually, at our agency, we had a customer who also leaned pretty heavily into their like app stores with their partners, like they were a big Shopify partner, and that was a significant driver of new signups and revenue for them as well. So making those plays if you can, and if it makes sense to do so, obviously. And yeah, there's loads of cool things that you shared. So thank you for giving us kind of an insight into everything that you guys have been through over the last couple of years and what you're working on at the moment. Just to wrap things up. So I always ask this question at the end, and you've already answered one of them. The first one I usually ask is like, what's working well for you guys at the moment? But we just went through that. So the second one is, what's something that you're actually finding challenging within marketing right now? Like, what's something that is tough for you at the moment?
Well, I think one thing that is kind of tough for us, like many companies, is obviously events. So we had started investing more in events last year, and we're looking to do the same this year. And well, of course, they've all been canceled now. Yeah. So that's something that we still need to figure out. But on the flip side from that, we're actually still pretty confident in events, and we're actually discussing right now whether we should start recruiting someone to kind of take the lead on events for Supermetrics, which right now it seems kind of crazy to do that in these times. But I think that we still have quite a lot to figure out in that space and understand how we can add that to our marketing mix and get good ROI out of that. We see a lot of possibilities in that space. So I think for us, that's something that's always been a bit challenging. And now when we decided to take steps into that, it became even more challenging. So we have a few things to figure out, but I think that's something we'll be looking at this year and beyond for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, that is really interesting. Cool. Okay. Well, look, thank you for coming on today. Thank you for sharing your story and so many useful tips for everybody. I really appreciate it. It's been good to meet you.
Dylan, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.